Got something.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you online, we're going to work on sharing a presentation here in just a second, but I'll begin my remarks here in just a moment. Ready? All right. Yep, they can hear us. Yep.
So we'll go ahead and start, and I apologize. Live on technology and then it doesn't work. Start your head. So I'm Mike Ortega, I'm city manager. And what I thought we would do is just very, very quickly go around and introduce ourselves. I know that we have a sign-in sheet. If you don't mind, maybe we just kind of quickly go through and let everybody know who's here. We'll start at that end of the table, go around, go online, make sure everybody knows who's here. So Liz, we'll start with you.
Liz Morales, Assistant City Manager, and I have responsibilities over with Department of Transportation Mobility.
Hello, my name is Eric Garcia. I'm here with the community engagement question.
Anisha Butra, I'm Mayor Romero's Planning, Development, and Mobility Advisor.
Andrew Christopher, President of the Arroyo Chico Neighborhood Association.
Yes, I live in South Tucson and I'm a coordinator at Lancaster.
You can just leave me facing.
And James Thurston, I'm a volunteer for the Forest Service at Sabino Canyon. I do bicycle volunteer work. I was there this morning. Welcome.
Vanilla Getzi, I'm on a couple of commission boards and I live in Arroyo Chico, and this will dramatically affect my neighborhood. My name is Pam Francis and I'm a resident of Tucson. I live in Arroyo Chico and it will impact a lot of people as well.
Will be fun for you as well. This is about the application.
There's a little native song you up in Ward 1. I live now in Ward 5 for almost coming up on 5 decades.
Chris Lopez, also a native Tucsonian with the Julie King Neighborhood Association, and also concerned about the traffic, of course, on the 22nd Street Bridge.
Rita Robles, Ward 5 Council Office.
I'm Mike.
Erica Frizzell, Public Information for Department of Transportation and Mobility.
Sam Credio, Director of Transportation and Mobility.
So I'm not sure how best to do the online folks. Maybe what we could do is why don't you just read off who's on?
Okay.
That might be easier than trying to. We can quickly go through that.
All right, so we have a phone number 270-6489.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
We have
Hi.
We have someone from telephone number 331-6634 online. We have Al, Angie, Ben Gonzalez. We have Ben Elias from the Department of Transportation and Mobility. We have Chris Mills. We have David Burbank from the Department of Transportation and Mobility. David McAvoy, Grace. This one I will try to say Ingmar Rydell, and it cut off a portion of the name. I apologize. Jeffrey Holson, Joey, Jonathan Crow, Jordy Gunther, Chris LaFleur, and then we have from Ward 5, Mary Kuchar, Councilmember Richard Fimbris, and Mark Kerr. And let me see if I believe that is. See, we have a few others online as well. Jose Munoz, somebody from email address Portage 1804, Rick Grinnell, Robin Rain from the Department of Transportation and Mobility, Holly Thomas, and we have James Wood. That's everyone online.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. So let me just start off. We'll get to it. We're running behind a little bit, so we'll be able to get to it. So what I'd ask Sam to do is give an overview of how we got to today. And here's kind of the format. So Sam will present what has gone on to today. Once that is finished, then we'll give everyone an opportunity to give comment, feedback, thoughts. I don't expect to solve everything today. I don't have that expectation. Yeah, I know, I wish, but I don't have that expectation. What I am thinking though is we will summarize and take your notes, comments, and then we will go back and look at all of those, articulate them in our way of responding to them. And then we can have another conversation down the road. So please don't think this is a one and done. I don't expect that. I expect this to be an open conversation for a bit. Okay, so with that, I want to turn it over to Sam. Sam, if you could, or whoever's appropriate on your team.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ortega. So I'm going to walk you through a quick timeline here, and then we do have a brief presentation only just to show you some of the graphics associated with the project. So the 22nd Street Bridge project was actually included in the RTA plan in 2006 as Project 19, which was 22nd Street from I-10 to Tucson Boulevard / Barraza Aviation Parkway. And the scope for that project is to widen to 6 lanes, a 6-lane bridge over the railroad tracks with bicycle lanes and sidewalks. Now, mind you, this 22nd Street project also included the 22nd Street Keno overpass, as well as the piece of 22nd Street West out to I-10. From 2006 to 2009, there was design public outreach, which included 7 open houses and 26 citizen advisory committee meetings. So there was an 11-person CAC that was part of the planning process for this project. There was also a technical advisory committee that was formed to provide some advisory comments, technical advisory comments on the project. In 2007, they approved the alignment for the 22nd Street project. In December of 2007, an advanced planning report was approved by the CAC and also endorsed by the Technical Advisory Committee. Back in August 2008, there was an alternate alignment report, which was completed. And at that same time, the CAC endorsed the ultimate alignment report. In November 18th of 2008, there was an actual public hearing held for the alternate alignment report. And at that time, in front of mayor and council, the alternate alignment report was approved, which included the following, and this is out of one of our reports. In the public hearing that was held on November 18, 2008, the mayor and council gave direction to the team to investigate the use of 11-foot traffic lanes to slow traffic in an urban area and to increase the bike lane width to 6 feet. In addition, they requested that at a minimum, this project plan for providing a connection for pedestrians and bicycles on 22nd Street with the existing Barraza Aviation Parkway multi-use path. And that's an important note that I'll further explain here in a moment. So as a result, in April 30th of 2009, the CAC actually participated in the design charrette. And a charrette is like a public meeting in which it allowed the group to get together and talk more specifics about the design of the project. Up to that point, the bicycle and pedestrian areas on the bridges were a bike lane as well as a sidewalk. Out of that design charrette came the idea of including a suspended center bridge for both the bicycles and pedestrians. And so what that means, if you want to pull those drawings up here in a sec, what that means is the bridges came across came across Aviation and Union Pacific, and then suspended between the 2 bridges was a bicycle and pedestrian bridge that was separated from the roadway. The reason that that was included in the design was to be able to provide the direct connection down to the Aviation bikeway. And there you go. And so if you see, and you can circle, show more it's at, Erica. Yep, right there. Those were the direct connections down to the Aviation bikeway that was included in the design. Also, there were discussions about those connections, and so that's how those connections were achieved. Over the next year or so, the environmental design and mitigation report was completed. That document is available online that you can go take a look at. And then, yes.
I do apologize. We cannot see, you mentioned about the screen, the people who are watching this virtually, you were trying to share, so
yeah,
just couldn't.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. We'll share it on the screen right now. Yes, it is. Yep. And so from 2009 to 2018, we then launched into the design phase of the project. So up to that point, it had all been planning, meeting with the CAC, doing the public outreach. At the same time, we were also working on the Keno overpass. And so in that time frame from 2009 to 2018, we completed the design for the 22nd Street Keno overpass. We completed the construction for that. all the while finalizing the design plans for 22nd Street Bridge, which is based on what you see on the screen here. In April of 2021, we ultimately went out for a request for qualifications for a contractor. That is a little bit different than how we typically build our projects. Typically, we go out to low bid. On a project this complex, we wanted to hire a contractor based on a qualifications-based selection called Construction Manager at Risk. In November of 2021, we finalized the award for the contractor. That contractor is Old Pueblo Segmental Bridge Constructors. It's a joint venture between Malcolm International and a local company called KENG. Kicking off in November 2021, we started out our pre-construction services. And so what that means is the contractor meets with our project team and we begin looking at how we're going to build the project. And then what they start working towards is a guaranteed maximum price, or a GMP. At that same time, we began to experience historic inflation in the construction industry. In fact, ADOT's construction cost index, I believe, was 2.3 at the time, which means projects were coming in at double or more. And so this project was no exception. And so together with our contractor, we began looking at ways that we could build the bridge more efficiently, and if there were some ways that we could reduce the overall cost of the project. A few things that we found that would save money and time on the project first was allowing a full closure of 22nd Street. So the original plans for the project included building one bridge first, keeping the old one open, then demolishing the old bridge and building a second one. The timeline for that project was around 5 years. And so by completing a full closure of 22nd Street, we can build the project in just under 3 years, which also saves money. The other thing that the project team looked at is shortening the bridge span. So what that means is the span length across aviation and the Union Pacific rail yard. That's really important because Union Pacific is a major stakeholder on this project, as is ADOT. We're trying to minimize the amount of piers, which is the vertical columns that hold the bridge up within the Union Pacific right-of-way. By shortening the bridge span, we were able to eliminate 2 bridge piers in the right-of-way there. At that time, once we made that decision to shorten the bridge span, the suspended center bike ped bridge became a problem to construct. And so rather than have it suspended beneath the 2 bridges, we brought that center running bicycle pedestrian bridge structure up to grade with the 2 bridge structures. In doing so, a couple things were compromised: the connections to the aviation bikeway, as well as the ramps to and from Aviation Highway. We did, and I'll go through this presentation here in just a second, we did show some of this to the public, and we did hear some feedback about concerns getting to the actual bicycle and pedestrian center running lane. We did add 2 hawks on either end of the bridge to address those concerns. Over the period from November 2022 to May 2023, we began our pre-construction public outreach. We had 7 public meetings. We did show some renderings of the pedestrian bridge structure and new hawk lights. Those are available on the website. And so that's where we're at today with the design as well as the project. We continue to work with the contractor to finalize the final cost of the project. But obviously that will be pending, the outcome of some of these discussions. Mr. Ortega, that's the, oh, and I do have you want me to go through this presentation real quick?
Why don't you
Okay.
just do that, just so
Okay.
it's the stage
Yep.
for.
Is it that one?
And
Okay.
it's not everybody is clear on what these drawings.
Okay.
depict.
So, yeah, this is the design that was completed in 2018, the final design. You can see that here is that center running suspended bicycle bridge structure. These are the connections down to the aviation bikeway. One of the reasons why the bridge was suspended below the two road bridges was because of these ramps. We had to figure out a way to make the connections work and not be in conflict with ramps A, B, and C. And so this was the project that we ultimately went out to the contracting community to build. A couple things I want to note is with these ramps being in place, you'll see that there's this cul-de-sac at Wilson Avenue. And I'll point that out to you another way here in just a second. There's also some grade separated connections underneath the bridge structure over here on the west end of the project. And Erica's kind of mirroring me here on the laptop. All right. This shows the, I'm going to go to the next one. Yeah. This shows the connection on the west end of the bridge down at Warren Avenue. And again, this is where that connection down to being at grade with Campbell Avenue and getting the users of the suspended bicycle ped bridge down to at grade with Campbell Avenue and then connecting over to this sidewalk here. One of the challenges the design team had was dealing with this slip ramp for eastbound 22nd Street. So that's why the decision was made to bring folks down over here to Campbell Avenue on the north side of 22nd Street, and then moving on to the west. And then this is a close-up of the east end of the bridge of that 2018 design that again shows that connection from the suspended bridge down to the aviation bikeway. And again, you can see where we're having to contend with these ramps here. The bikeway actually goes underneath ramps B and C. And then you can see over here, I believe it also went underneath ramp A and then over connecting back to the bikeway. This is a cross section of this is the current design, right? Yeah, so this is the current design of that bicycle and pedestrian area between the two bridges. So before this, it was actually suspended down underneath these two bridges. And you can see where we've kind of brought it up to grade almost with the two segmental bridges spanning this distance in between here. This just shows some of the vertical profiles of those connections from the 2018 plans. Those don't mean no. And then here's the design as it stands today. So what you see here is that the center running bicycle pedestrian area is in orange here. You can see that these ramps A, B, and C are no longer shown in the design. We do have this connection of the aviation bikeway that no longer has to go underground through tunnels. It stays up out of the tunnels. It does go underneath the new bridge. And then you can see here where we have the pedestrian crossings at the Hawks at either end for people to get across from the center lane out to the outside. And I think that's the last one. Oh, here's some close-ups. And there's just a close-up of the west end. And then, yes, sir.
I know, correct, all the audience, some conversations that folks have had. The concern is, well, multiple, but two main things that I've heard. One is a change to the design from what folks have maybe seen. Can you talk a little bit about what changed and what that process was to make that change, number one? And then the second is the crossing at either end of the bridge and why that was recommended over whatever the original design was, the original thoughts were.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Be happy to. So as I mentioned, once we got into the pre-construction services with the contractor and we started looking at different ways to more efficiently build this bridge, there were some cascading effects of some of the design changes. So for example, shortening the bridge span, eliminating additional piers created a problem to build that suspended bridge underneath the two bridges. And so, that's why we brought again, keeping it in the center as the design was before, but bringing it up to grade with the two bridge structures. But then that creates a problem on how do you get users of the space down off the bridge and back onto the side of the road where typically you would see a bicycle and pedestrian connection. We actually heard that the first iteration of this design change, we did not have the Hawks here. We actually heard that feedback from the public pretty loud and clear. And so we realized that was something we missed. We added the Hawks to the design. And hopefully everyone knows what a Hawk is. It's a signalized pedestrian crossing. The Hawks were developed here in Tucson. They have a 96% compliance rate. And so we thought that they were a good use of that technology at either end of the bridge. What was your second question, Mike?
Second is, sort of answered, is why the Hawks and what that does to the design. Because that is different, but you said that was in reaction or response to.
Correct. Yeah. Before this center running bicycle pedestrian area connected underneath the bridge. And since we brought it up to grade with the bridge, we have to figure out a way to get these users back out of that center space and out to the north and south sides of the road on either side of the bridge. And so again, that was in response to that design change.
Okay, so that's the presentation, basically where we are today. Happy to open it up to comment. And again, I want to try to solve everything, but if we could hear from you as to the concern that you have, then what we will do is I'll take some notes. Well, we've got several staff here that will be taking notes, and feel free to share your notes if you have any writing as well. So if you'd like to go first, you're up. And if you don't mind.
Yeah, buenos Betsy. I've lived in Arroyo Chico for 2 years, and I live on a bicycle boulevard, Creek Avenue, and the things I've noticed is that the city implements things to make things safer. While it often looks good on paper, it doesn't work as good with it, I think. So for instance, I live right in a corner where there's a traffic circle that's been placed there when we have city school buses coming from every single direction. They can't get around it while kids are dropping off everyone else. And I'm trying to back out my car out of my driveway while cars are coming around the traffic circle. If they're big, my backup camera can't see them. So not only am I having to go this way and this way and this way, but I've actually been knocked down on my own property while reading by you all trying to get around this. So that looked good on paper. No one in my neighborhood or any of the surrounding neighborhoods thinks this thing looks good on paper. And what we're going to be dealing with is we've got a lot of traffic coming in from the east side that comes down 22nd. And this was made very clear in multiple meetings by people who come down from the east side going, it takes us an extra 20 to 25 minutes to get down Broadway or Speedway than it does 22nd. So what they're going to continue to do is come down Broadway and 22nd and then hook over on Alvernon Country Club or Tucson Boulevard, and then get on Broadway, which also now takes longer to get down because of the improvements. This is going to create a lot of extra traffic. So we have Reed Park, we have the zoo who wants to bring in 160,000 extra tourists a year. We have ballparks, and we also have people being forced on Broadway and Fifth, and Fifth is going to get this haircut, evidently, to 2 lanes. So this is a congestion of traffic in a very small area that is unfair to people in Arroyo Chico who are never going to get historic status, who are always going to be stressed. We already have a flight path over our heads. We already have a lot of fumes. And not being able to get away, like that aviation access was our only savior during the Broadway project. There were times we couldn't get out any other way because there were so many backups. So these are some of the issues. But the other issue is that the center thing, we can't find evidence of anybody else trying the center bridge. And we don't want to be a guinea pig. Secondly, if you put the bike path on the second side, it gives a little bit more cushion of noise to the people who are living west of Tucson Boulevard, say Plummer, Beverly, all this area that they're already getting a lot of traffic noise. And they're concerned about this as well. And as a former cyclist in Chicago, I can tell you, as someone who lives not far from 22nd, beer cans get thrown at me when it's walking down the street by the park. So we all avoid it like a plague on 22nd. We won't go down, people are honking. It is terribly frightening to be up at eye level of trucks and buses going 6 different directions. This, it just feels like none of this is a good idea. Plus these hawkeyes are going to back up traffic. And then we have the train. So that's just in short, it's part of the problem, but also that they haven't even repaved Tucson Boulevard yet. And it's in really bad shape. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Who's next? You're up.
My name's Lee. I have a question about this drawing, which is the aviation bike pathway. Does that still connect to the bridge where it's crossing, or does it go underneath it?
No, it would go underneath it.
So then you have to go all the way over the bridge, go down and then come around to it. Is that what that works?
That's correct. Yep.
There's no connection.
There's no connection.
All right,
No
so
direct
then,
connection.
why I'm here is because I have late bike, that's my only form of transportation. And I live just like a mile, west of this bridge. So anytime I'm going east, this is what I have to take, basically. And something that I've noticed in like a lot of the road reconstruction plans that have been happening around Tucson lately is like, there will be these plans to make it safer for bikes and more connected for bikes. And then when it comes to actually building it, suddenly we're like left behind consistently. Tucson is like a major bike city, and I don't feel like the city treats it that way. People come here frequently for bicycling because of our weather, because of our connections, and when we build stuff like this, that's clearly just prioritizing cars and traffic. It kind of undermines this aspect of the city that I feel is really important. Me and a lot of the people in my neighborhood get around exclusively by bike. This is something that we're gonna be riding on consistently for decades, and I don't see much consideration for bicycling. Getting to the middle of that, having to go all the way down and go around and cross the road twice on bike when drivers are so consistently aggressive towards us in a place that's encouraging them to go faster with widened lanes is dangerous. That's what I have to say about it.
Thank you. Sure.
Andrew, Rodrigo. There was a number that you stated, Sam, of the hot compliance being at 96%, I believe. I'd be curious to see more information on where those numbers come from. And if we have any information on compliance in a condition like this with steep downhill grades and with the average speed of traffic on this bridge, which regardless of what it's going to be posted at, it's about 55, 60 for those of us that drive across it. I don't think you're going to hit 96%. I think there's going to be a lot of cyclists and pedestrian deaths at the bottom of that bridge, unfortunately. I see Hawks as a great solution for, existing roads to create connections where we don't have the money to really improve the infrastructure yet. But I mean, this is I don't know how many million, 100 million, whatever dollar project. And to put a hot crossing in is pretty insulting, I think, to the people who cycle and walk across the bridge. The other thing I'm still failing to understand is why we're losing access to aviation. I don't think that's really been made clear to me, but if we're not going to have the great connections that we have under the bridge to the center lane, why are we losing that access when we had both of those things in the prior design? So I don't know. I think this is a unique project in that people who drive and people who bike don't like it, which is interesting. But that's the only comments I have for it.
I fly off on the hawk light situation, they do fail. And when you've got a hawk light, people expect that hawk light to be working when they're driving. And so they expect to see the red. They're not actually looking for pedestrians anymore. And I have a hawk light at Eastland and lives right there. We cross it, it fails sometimes. So then you're in extra trouble when you're trying to get across because you don't have any lights and you're in the middle of the road and they're like, why didn't you push the hawk light? And then they get extra angry at you.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more comment on the hawk light is that living just up the road on 22nd, there's a hawk light right by the highway that connects the bike path that's there already. And consistently, almost every time I press that button, because of the flow of traffic on 22nd, I have to wait for like half of the crossing light for cars to make sure that cars aren't still going across it because they basically always.
Phil DuPont, Colonial Salon. I have concerns about the bike safety, but I also have concerns about the increased traffic, possibly Algernon, Randolph Way, Country Club, and Tucson Boulevard. We've already gone through a lot of processes for Broadway, and a lot of us worked on that. But my concern again is taking away the access to aviation. Driving that, since I go to Mission Garden, as you know, quite a bit, I'm driving that all the time. And to get to the post office from where Reed Park is, if I take aviation, I have 3 stoplights. We're talking about greenhouse gases. When I go down Broadway, I have 9 stoplights and 3 hops. So I'm increasing greenhouse gases. Not only that, we're increasing the traffic on Tucson Boulevard and Country Club, which are hard if you live on in those neighborhoods. It's hard to get out every once in a while, especially during increased traffic times. Also, as stated before, you have Reed Park, you're increasing attendance to the zoo. You have baseball, High Corbett, which you don't meet the parking requirements for, as you know, major complaints, even though it's contractually stated that the university will have that parking. So I'm just seeing this as a total mess. We're increasing greenhouse gases. We're endangering bicyclists because I also, coming home, I'll use 22nd. And he's right. You're going 55 miles over that bridge. You can follow a bus or van trip. They're going 47 to 50. I know this. I'm traveling it. So the amount of damage you're doing in increased greenhouse gases, you've spent a bundle of money to complete aviation all the way to the freeway, and now you've taken all of East Tucson out of the ability to get into access off of 22nd to aviation. I think there's a lot of things that need to be corrected here. We didn't get involved because we didn't know that all these changes were going to be made as far as the aviation. Now we are involved, and you're going to say, well, we're in the last stages of this. Why didn't you speak up? We didn't have the knowledge of what was going to be done until I went to Lineweaver, and several of us asked, what do you mean you're closing aviation? So this is a major impact to everybody's timeline. I think it's going to be an increase in accidents because I think if you go to police records and see how many accidents are right there, when you get to the Keno Bridge off of 22nd, I see one at least every week. So there's a lot of concerns here that I don't think have been addressed. You've changed the whole pattern and they're saying, we're going to rush this through until people spoke up at mayor and council. And I think it was the AV, when we had the meeting at Lineweaver, that we finally got some real true answers. Because when we get on the other side of the 22nd Street Bridge, we're not going to see an increase in traffic lanes there. So if you don't at least increase the lanes between Park and Keno, so that people can at least turn off on Park to get to the downtown area, you're just going to see a bottleneck that's going to be horrible from Park all the way back to Keno. It is already from Park to Keno. Many very different times of the day. I mean, just go there, drive it. And the same thing on the other side. And again, this is a concern. I've been involved with bike, I've done a lot of bike under at that time, Betty Young. So I'm well aware of this, but I'm very concerned for the safety of these people. When you're coming off a bridge and trying to visually stop, this also is going to be having major trucks now on there. You don't have those trucks on this bridge right now. So you're going to be asking somebody with a, 2-trailer major truck to come to a halt because somebody pressed a button to cross. And those people behind it don't have the vision to see what's going on because they're not at the same grade. So I'm very concerned about this as far as traffic concerns, bike safety, increasing greenhouse gases.
So the one thing I will correct, you said we're trying to rush this, starting in 04 to today.
I know
That's not rushing,
but
I'm just letting you know.
change the plan.
I'm not gonna argue. I'm just gonna let you know.
Okay.
We wouldn't be having this conversation. We're trying to rush it. And so I think what I heard and the conversations I've had with staff I want to have this conversation, understand all of these pieces, so then we can hopefully chart a path forward, okay? I just want you to know that, I'm not trying to do it in cover of darkness to get this done, so that's not the intent, okay?
But our experience at the meetings was,
Good.
hey, you have this design, now this is what we're doing, Thanksgiving. Everybody's exhausted. We just came out of COVID. We're trying to see our families for the first time. And now we're gonna do this. What? You know, as somebody who volunteers my time for the city, I know what it's like when, you know, my former president of my association was on that committee to do that original design. And now that's all gone. It's quite depressing, you know, when she didn't even know. No one contacted her when she was on that original design board to let her know that some changes were happening. So then we go through some of our meetings, we're talking and we're being told, hey, we're going to start a project in April. That was actually said. So here we are now. We felt very rushed.
I'm with you. I'm just telling you, if we were rushing you, we would be having this conversation. So I want to just let you know, I'm hearing you. That's why we're here.
Well, when we were meeting, he said that construction would start in August. And that's what he said. And,
Well, we're here.
well,
We haven't started August.
I'm saying, this is what we're told, this is what we live with. And some of us have been on many committees with the city.
First it was April, and it was August.
I mean, to their points, I think you said the design phase was 2009 to 2018, and it took until 2022 for us to get to this point, and then until 2023 to get here. So I don't know, there was all the time in between where I feel like nobody was really consulted from the neighborhood, and certainly not from the original, you know, design committee.
Like we have two people online.
I'm sorry. You know what? We've got one more and then we'll go online, then we'll come back to those. Okay, there. We got one more in person here and then we'll go to online. You have them listed? Okay, great. Yep.
The interest of saving money, have you considered just widening the existing bridge instead of building another one? And, you know, we have the aviation bike lane and we have the basket bridge and the rattlesnake bridge near downtown. Have you thought about isolating cyclists from cars so we don't have to deal with this craziness? You know how many red light runners we have in Tucson and Phoenix? There's gonna be, I don't wanna be dead right at this, trying to get some double trailer to stop because I wanna get across the street. I don't wanna be anywhere near those damn cars and trucks. So in the interest of saving money, why don't we just widen the existing deal that we've got and keep bicycles the hell away from the cars? It'll save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to fix what we've got instead of creating a whole new bridge, which is insane.
Okay, let's go to online. So I'll leave that up to you to go ahead and call their names out.
We have Holly Thomas.
You might be muted, Holly.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
there we go. Yep.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am a graduate student at the University of Arizona. I study climate science, and I'm here basically because this is a bit of a zoomed out version, but it's getting hotter, and it is just in the best interest of the city long term. And I realize this is very zoomed out, to reduce the amount of pavement in the city. Pavement, as you all I'm sure know, compounds the problem with something called the urban heat island effect. And continuing to expand the city in the interest of cars rather than bicycles is very, very short-sighted and will end up compromising the longevity of Tucson's economy and livability in the long term. So removing access to aviation just makes it so much harder and so much more dangerous for cyclists, but it also really elevates the likelihood that Tucson will not be sustainable long term. So I think that long-term climate planning beyond just bicycle safety should be factored into this decision, and the city as a whole should really consider starting to prioritize bicycle infrastructure over car infrastructure. I say this as a young person, as someone who loves this city and is interested in its longevity. So thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Next, Jeffrey Holson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for holding the meeting. In the presentation, I caught one line about the footprint of the bridge, and perhaps you can address that in terms of the width question. Apparently, having a more proper, either the suspended path, which is gone, or the paths on the side, which is a better idea, would probably, with 3 lanes, widen the footprint of the bridge. So that would increase cost, I'm assuming. But it does seem like what I'm hearing is there's no precedent for the design that's going in place here. So you have 2 downhill grades going through Hawks, where bicyclists and pedestrians are crossing, and you expect a light to protect them. It once again seems unprecedented, a downhill grade. Drivers are loath to stop on downhill grades. You've got it seems very little of in the way of an overall good design here, based on what a bridge is supposed to do, what it's capable of doing, which is to flow every aspect of traffic in an efficient and effective way. This bridge, the hallmarks of this bridge seem to be a lack or a decrease in connectivity in many respects, rather than a maintenance of existing connectivity or improving connectivity. So it does seem like it's one of the most crucial overpasses in town. Now, I understand that Tucson is not an experienced city when it comes to designing overpasses. There are very few of them in this community, aside from the federal overpasses where the freeway comes through. There are a handful, so some are better than others. It does seem penny wise and pound foolish to try to save money here. I realize the city is a poor city, and this is a city that for a long time has done things on a thin dime. I get that. But this would be very penny wise and pound foolish to implement this design. I believe that you're going to end up with a class action lawsuit on your hands when people realize there have been 10 or 12 deaths at the base of this bridge because of this cruddy design, that you're going to really have a serious multi-million-dollar lawsuit to contend with. That's going to be your extra saved money right out the window. You have very little in the way of existing traffic enforcement. So there's a lot of driving that's going on right now that's extremely risky. I was driving up Campbell Saturday night, the night of the game, coming back home, and there were pods of street racers in these little modded rice mobiles zipping in and out of traffic at 50 with impunity. They knew there was nobody was going to mess with them. They were just, disregard for the existing traffic. So that is already today a problem with how traffic works in this city, and to design a high risk system when that is an existing phenomenon without thinking about enforcement, it just doesn't seem penny wise. So yeah, this bridge does seem like an obstacle rather than a connectivity conduit. And having grown up in a town which really did a lot of overpasses and pedestrian foresight and had viaducts that they built in an older city, I'm disappointed to see this poor design. Then there is the climate question, the fuel that's going to be spewed out at these Hawks and coming from zero up a hill on both sides of the bridge, rather than being able to use some momentum to get over the bridge. The lack of separation for these cyclists to be able to just continue on their path to come to a dead stop, use a Hawk twice to get across the bridge. That's incredibly as a cyclist, I wouldn't come near this bridge. I mean, and I am a cyclist. I ride all over this my part of town where I live. So yeah, there will be climate impacts. There will be vehicle maintenance impacts, fleet maintenance impacts, the city buses, those, maintaining the buses that have to stop and start over again. And as I mentioned, I think you will see lawsuits. I really beg you to find whatever way you can to go back and restore obviously you've got a bridge that's approaching a parkway, and it's a major thoroughfare. We already have, you go down to where is it? You try to get on 10. There's a couple of places where you've got a major thoroughfare crossing 10. You can't get on 10. We've already got that in this community, too much of it. Now you're going to do it again, where aviation is. Can't get on the aviation and jump downtown without a light. and all the way through. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So I exhort you, I urge you to find a better solution. I know there's been a lot of time and energy that went into this, but before it's done, I think really we need to find a better way forward. Thanks.
Welcome. Anybody else online?
Yeah, we have Jose Munoz. And then-
Okay, then we'll go to, and we'll come here. There's one.
Okay, and then I think Councilmember Fimbres.
Oh, okay. All right. I think you're.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Hi, my name is Jose Munoz. I am an Arroyo Chico member. I'm also I'm appointed by the mayor and the commission for the 2018 bonds and Parks and Connection as well. And I just want to echo my fellow Tucsonians who have spoken today on just the troubling idea to have a bike lane and pedestrians right in the middle of the bridge. This is unsafe, unheard of. I understand the budget constraints that we're dealing with. I understand the context, but I think we are better than this. And it is very disappointing to see the prioritization of vehicle traffic instead of the most vulnerable who are pedestrians and bicyclists. In alignment with what has been said about climate change, I just urge you all to think of the mayor's sustainability and climate change action plan, and how does this truly align with what we want to build? And this is, I think, the opposite of what that plan asks for. That is really, why do we need to expand this bridge to 6 lanes? Why can't we build a new bridge with 4 lanes and prioritize our pedestrians and bicyclists by building one on each side and still keeping it in a very manageable size and within budget? I think that is one way to really really reconsider the design thinking of it and really center the community in Tucson and the infrastructure that will be for the future of Tucson. So I know there's been a lot of work that has been done before this meeting, and there is a way to honor both those individuals that have sat in these hearing sessions, that have the city officials that have put a lot of also effort in it, but also let's think about the future and avoid any catastrophes, as many of the city of Tucson members have mentioned through all these hearing sessions. So those are the words that I have to you, Mike, and to all the other city officials who are here, is really let's not make a mistake, but let's think of how can we capitalize on this opportunity and think of the future when it comes to the capacity of moving our footprint into a zero emission city, and what can that look like, and incorporating all those axes. So thank you so much for doing this. And I was very involved. I'll mention this with what happened at the Reed Park Zoo, and we can see the outcomes when we bring people together. We think through these plans. I do think that making space to hear each other and to talk through problem solving can create a better outcome for all stakeholders. I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate that. You said Councilmember Femur says.
I thought he had a question.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate all you interest and your concerns. We're here to ask the questions, get the questions from Mike and Sam and his staff. One question I have, Mike, is why was the Aviation Parkway exit taken out of the proposal?
So I think the question is the aviation, the connection. You want to quickly address that?
Yeah. So, a couple things. One is when the suspended bike ped bridge was raised to be at grade with the other bridge structures. It eliminated some of those direct connections down to the aviation bikeway. But then that still created these conflict points with the ramps along here, creating some tunnels that, well, some of those tunnels exist today, but we're gonna have some other tunnels in place. So in looking at the overall traffic pattern of the area, especially with the construction of the 22nd Keno overpass, it did appear some of these ramps were redundant. The other thing that we learned is that some of these ramps do not meet some of ADOT's standards for deceleration lanes. And so that was part of it as well. The last thing that we looked at was with this ramp in place here, the ramp off of Aviation onto eastbound 22nd Street, Wilson Avenue was a cul-de-sac. And so we were able to open up Wilson Avenue, providing a direct connection to 22nd Street.
Thank you, Sam.
Pam Francis. And thank you. I had a few questions about the bicycle part. I did do a lot of research and I could not find one case study where anyone ever put bicycles in the middle of 6 lanes. Recently in San Francisco, Valencia Street has tried putting it's a pilot program. There's no construction involved. And they put bikes in the middle, but what they did is remove the 2 bike lanes in the center and told the motorists to get off Valencia so the bicyclists could go down the middle. So I'm not seeing any case studies where this has ever happened before. I think we do have a couple of folks who were on the BAC committee. And I heard during today's conversations, I've heard a couple of people use the word disappointed. And I think more than anything at this point, I am disappointed in this design. And if I understand correctly, the BAC, which are appointed folks from Pima County and the city of Tucson to advise the city of Tucson and our community about bicycling safety, wrote a letter. Joseph Mace wrote a letter in June asking about specific things about this design, about it being no precedent, about normally you look at you narrow lanes to make the motor traffic go slower. Y'all have increased the width of the lanes to make traffic go faster. So in some ways, y'all are doing exactly the opposite of the case studies that I have been reading and what the BAC, I believe, is talking about. And then we have a young person here, our friend who is a bicyclist. These people that can only ride their bicycles. So I just think that Tucson is a bicycle destination city. I think that we ought to be proud of it. I think a lot of us are proud of it, but I think this is just a bad bicycle. It's just a bad design. Nobody else is doing it anywhere else in the world, unless I believe Mr. Giuliani told me the other day, there is some sort of middle idea in Grenoble, France somewhere that may be successful. Thank you.
Others?
Jesse Lugo. I've been a resident in Ward 5 for coming up almost for 5 decades, 50 years. But Pam just talked about the BAC letter that I submitted to mayor and council meeting on August the 22nd. And they had dissension about some of the changes that have been made. They requested a reply back from city officials to reply back by July 31st, 2023. I'm not sure whether or not the city, did contact them. But in my opinion, the center pedestrian lane not only is a public safety issue, it's a health issue because it will expose people to harmful carbon monoxide vapors that is colorless, odorless, and toxic, right? And why would you want to put people to separate traffic going east and west on 22nd? But the other issue is when TDOT met with people about the 22nd overpass and changes were made, the TDOT then go back to the individuals participating in people-to-people meeting. But I believe in 2023, it was virtual meetings, right? In my opinion, virtual meetings don't have the same effect like a meeting with people. So that'd be the question, if whether TDOT did follow up and then with all the people in the past to give them information, that information was updated. The issue about the hawk lanes, it will impede traffic flow. No question about it, because when we have major streets or roads like golf links, Aviation, 22nd, Broadway, Grand, Fort Low, and Prince, they're built so we can move traffic from east to west, right? And by putting the hawk lanes on 22nd, it just defines common sense by doing so. In fact, I spoke to a retired engineer, and I won't repeat the words he said, but he strongly objected that how this proposal even, came to the table. But there's many individuals that we know now that weren't aware of any changes made. But in doing so, that's why we're calling that after this meeting, as the city manager saying that our discussion is not going to conclude here. But the one item that I do want to call we go back when the 22nd information was aired on KGUN 9, and the reporter noted that the city representative said that this particular project again. All this started back in 2004 when I wrote a letter to United States Senator John McCain, as I was walking over the bridge to retrieve my PO box mail. And as on the top of the bridge was flexing up and down. As I said in the mayor and council meeting, I thought it was a earthquake. But I've been in LA doing an earthquake, I knew it wasn't. But then I looked down on the ground and I saw potholes in concrete. And in fact, some of them are covered today because the rebar is still there. And one of the gentlemen spoke earlier, you can't enter the bridge because I thought that United States Senator John McCain, when he brought the Army Corps of Engineers, they posted that no vehicle over 30,000 GBW could pass on it. And that is done because I certainly thought they were going to condemn that bridge and maybe accelerate the process by getting this bridge reconstructed. That has to be done. We waited 19 years. It's time that the mayor and council hear the public's voice. This is not a good project that's being presented. Got to go back and refine it so the people finally have the final say of what they approve to get this bridge built.
One more thing real quickly. One of the things that you've mentioned and that we've heard in a couple of meetings is that there were some issues with aviation access being dangerous. It is a little dangerous coming from aviation onto 22nd. That's a little bit of a problem that could be improved. But I've lost a rim, a tire on 5th in June. I've reported numerous potholes that were over 10 inches deep in the last thing. I'm just the roads around my neighborhood. So I've never had a problem going down the aviation. Never seen an accident going down the aviation, and I can get downtown in 5 minutes from my house. I can get to my chiropractor and no problem. And I don't have any students crossing roads looking at their phones. So at the U of A, which is, it may not be up to certain standards, but this is Tucson. And right now, that's some of the best we have for the citizens in our area. Thanks.
Patience.
Oh, no worries. I'm Chris Focus with Julia King, native Tucsonian, Julia King for over 50 years. But I want to ditto everything that they have already said because I agree with everything that is not happening and should be happening. So I'm going to add one more thing that is different, okay, that they did not talk about. The traffic coming from golf lanes onto Aviation, okay, they're gonna have to exit. Where will they exit? Country Club. Country Club now, I have been emailing for over 20 years to get it improved because of all the traffic that was increased on the Barossa Aviation Parkway over 25 years ago. They told us we were going to get drainage, curbs, sidewalks, lighting. None of that has happened in 25 years. The north side of 22nd Street was improved several years ago with all of that. The south side of 22nd Street is still neglected. If we're gonna have all that increase of traffic coming from Aviation, coming down Country Club all the way to Broadway or exiting wherever they're gonna exit, we're gonna have a heck of a lot more traffic. And it's gonna be a big safety issue because there's only one lane both ways and no drainage. So when it rains, we have rivers going down there, actually rivers. People can't even cross. There's no sidewalks, okay? And there's no lighting. So that is one thing I want to add to everything else that's already been projected. Thank you.
Just add one more item, what Chris talked about, the elimination of the Aviation Barossa Parkway ingress and egress off of the into 22nd, enforcing traffic on Country Club. That will not handle the excess traffic that will have to exit on Country Club, traveling north on it because the overpass will be under construction. So that's really gonna make things very difficult on Country Club for all the residents around that area.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We need to we have some folks here that can validate parking if you parked in the garage. We don't have to stop right this second, but they will need to get your parking validated, and then you have 20 minutes, so we can continue for a bit. But I just want to make sure that they don't head out without validating parking. Okay?
Thank you.
So you're welcome to do that now so that you did that, get that on, but we can continue.
Plumber's the other issue on this. They want to contact the plumber directly. It's as bad as south of 22nd. There's no light. There's no lines to be spoken of. There's no sidewalks. There are businesses on either side that use parking there. And so when I talk to the people west of Tucson Boulevard between Tucson and Plummer, they're already getting the noise from the bridge and they want a larger wall. That's something that's been mentioned. They would much like a lot more protection. But then they're also going to be getting semi trucks coming down Plummer. And that seems like a lot because these folks have to give up their homes, 15 years ago. And then they're moving to other areas in the same area and now they're going to get even more. That's something that's also been mentioned and there hasn't been anybody here who's talked about that aspect of it. So I thought I would mention that.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Do we have anybody online?
We do have two. Jeffrey Holson has his hand up.
We already got him. Okay. Jeffrey, is your hand still up or?
You just put it down. You just put it down.
Who's the other?
And then Ingmar Rydell Kraus.
Yes, Ingmar Rydell-Kruse. So I'm a member of the Bicycle Advisory Committee and just wanted to say a few words. So we in April basically heard about the design changes and we also were a little bit surprised because we were supposed to be consulted on those things earlier. We then wrote this letter under the impression that it's basically done deal and we kind of tried to save whatever could be saved, but there's certainly more things. So what we recommended for sure is that the bicycle and pedestrian lanes are put on the outside and getting rid of the shoulder and some other minor changes. But I'm pretty sure we would have more insights and more suggestions to make, also in light of many of the things that have been said today, many of which I would agree. Yeah, so that's what I just wanted to say.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Rick Grinnell. And I'll check the chat while Rick is speaking. Go ahead, Rick. You're on mute.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for presenting this opportunity. I'm a little bit confused as to how this is going to be funded, number one. And the recent passing of the transportation, I believe it's the 411 fund. How are we planning on commingling that fund as part of this project? Where is the money going to come from? And historically, I don't believe there's ever been a transportation project, whether it's here or anywhere else, that has come in within budget. So when we say here's a projected budget, how much of a leeway and how much of a buffer are you allowing for these projects to consider?
Those are great questions, Rick. What I will tell you for sure is this is not related to Prop 411. Those dollars were allocated specifically for residential roads, and that is not, so there are no dollars that are Prop 411 for this project. I will also tell you that we are still working on the financing or funding for the entirety of the project. That's one of the pieces that we still have to figure out. One of the efforts on just a big scale to reduce the cost was to do all these gyrations on the design. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, that's really the bottom line, is trying to get the costs down, and how we do that is really up to all of us to figure out. So that has not been worked out. When we get together again, we'll be able to give you a little more info on that, and we'll go into some detail with you on that. Good question. Thank you, Rick.
Are you considering, forgive me, are you considering as part of your financial package to fund this, raising additional taxes on either business or individual homeowners?
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is it.
So that's it online?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I just have a question on, when and where we might find more information about this and when past this.
Great question.
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at that. We do have a project website, and unfortunately my colleague Erica stepped out. She's got it, but we'll share that project website with all of you. Does have much of the material I shared today in the meeting. I think it has all the material there, including some of the historic reports that I mentioned. I expect, and Mr. Ortega, feel free to chime in, that we're going to get back together again, and we'll send a notification just like we did this time. And we'll be able to bring back some of that information to all of you. We'll probably do it similar, although hopefully technology works a little bit better for us, but we'll record that information and make it available as well. And Erica, they were just asking about the project website, if you could share it with everybody when you get a chance.
Yep, I'll put it in this chat as well. Okay.
People can't access the chat after today, maybe we could get an email out.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, and if you sign in, that is our communication for this project in particular. So as we move forward, we'll be able to let you know anything that's happening, give you updates, and then send you out these type of links.
So I'll give you one. Go ahead.
Do you request the city do a physical mailing to let people know about this next meeting as well? I know a lot of us have been using our own neighborhood email lists and everything, even printing and handing out flyers on our own dime. But there's a huge dearth of people who don't know about this and aren't going to find out about it unless they receive something in this website. So some help from the city would be awesome. We get like one mailing a year as a neighborhood, so we already used to it. Yeah.
And if you could email like neighborhood associations out on the east side, that would be great too. That should be on citizens to do.
We'll get the word out as best we can. We'll think through how to do that and get that to that. So you keep doing this.
Just one item, I just want to make sure that in the future that mayor and council does hear these comments, and of course the other comments in the future, but I'm still asking that this be played as a final agenda item for mayor and council to hear the public, but also the final presentation that everybody's happy with. And this way, at that time, I'm going to call for a roll call vote just to make sure that the public is being heard, because there is time. Again, we waited 19 years, another year or so at that funding. I said we can also ask our federal government to pony up some more money, but 25 million from them is not enough.
It's not enough. It's never enough. So here's what we'll do. Why don't you give us an opportunity to chat through your thoughts and your comments? I don't know how long it'll take us. Let me chat with the staff and we'll send something out, let you know. And then we'll reconvene and chat through where we, see there's opportunity. And I'll be open about it. I mean, those of you know me, I'm pretty direct. So I'll let you know where I see we have opportunity. The bottom line is we don't have enough money to do all the things that we'd like to do. I'll just tell you that. So how do we do it with the dollars that we have? And we'll figure it out. We always do, right? We're Tucson. We figure this
As long
out.
as we don't see jackhammers and bulldozers, we're gonna be in good shape.
You won't see them there. How's that?
But,
You won't see them anywhere.
But again, Sam, we want to thank you for this opportunity to give us an opportunity. Again, Mayor and Council asked for us to meet with you, so we thank you for doing so.
Yes.
You're very welcome. So we'll be in touch, okay? Thank you for your time. Those online, thank you so much for your time and participation. Councilmember Fembris, anything to close?
I just want to thank everybody for showed interest back. Thank you all for being there. We look forward to your questions. Thank you, man. Take care. God bless you all.
Very good. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
We'll be in touch. We appreciate everybody's attendance. Thank you.